Hey everybody. It's been a while since I put a new piece of content out for you guys, about a month, I think. And I firstly just want to apologize because it may seem like I've been kind of absent. And really, it's because for the past several months, I've just been completely holed up working on getting the new version of Mental and Emotional Mastery published. So it was probably close to 100 hours of filming, and then probably about 400 to 500 hours of editing videos, and refining it and getting it all done. But we just got it published a little over a week ago, and everyone's loving it so far. So I think it ended up being worthwhile. But I haven't put something new out there on our podcast or in our Facebook group for a while. And I wanted to get back into the rhythm of each week, making sure that I deliver some type of a free weekly live training so we can support the entire community, and make sure that you guys are being given tools that you can start to use to improve your life. So I was looking through my list of ideas. I usually keep a big long list of things that I want to do videos and podcast episodes about. And I was trying to find one that really resonated with me, and one stuck out. And the concept I've been mulling around in my head, and I want to try to flesh it out in this little session with you guys. The idea that I've been mulling around in my head is that all emotional pain can serve us and make our life better if we know how to actually handle it. That's kind of the big overarching idea, and I want to chunk that down in a couple things. The first big thing I've been seeing, and I've been seeing this theme pop up many times as we've been working with lots of people over the course of the past couple of months, is that I really truly believe, and I want to test this out with you, that all emotional pain is simply an invitation for us to grow. Another way of saying that would be that anytime you're experiencing emotional pain in your life, that means that there is a lesson that you need to learn. And if you are still dealing with the same repetitive, ongoing, chronic pain, it's because you have not yet learned the lesson adequately. And as this idea kind of popped up for me, this idea popped up because I was on a session with a gentleman, and he, by the way, he expressly recommended that I put a piece of content out about this session with him. He had gone through a really painful breakup. Not even a breakup, really. He was really interested in this girl. He'd been pursuing her, and it just ended up not working out. He was pretty much head over heels in love with her. And she essentially told him that she couldn't be in a relationship with him because of his race, right? And that was a really devastating thing for him to hear. And so he kind of went through a whole tailspin of beating himself up and blaming himself and just really feeling, sorry for himself in a lot of different ways. And he was really, really feeling depressed for a while. And then all of a sudden, we did this session, and this was several weeks ago now. But we did this session together, and he was feeling differently on the session. And I was like, what's shifted for you? Because I know that all emotional pain comes from the meaning that we give things, right? The belief that we're telling ourselves. And so I knew there must have been a shift in how he was looking at things. And what he said was, in the depths of his pain, he was like feeling really, really painful. He was even feeling suicidal at one point. And in the depths of his pain, he had this realization. And the realization that he had was that it wasn't his fault, right? That even though he loved this girl and he wanted to be with her, that it wasn't his fault that she looked at him the way that she did. It didn't mean that there was something wrong with him, but rather the two of them were just incompatible. They were, they did not have compatible world views. So long as she held on to those, frankly, racist beliefs, he was never going to be able to be the right man for her. That doesn't mean he did anything wrong. But for such a long period of time, he was beating himself up and thinking that really it was that he wasn't doing something he was supposed to be doing, and that she was just saying that that's what the issue was, but it wasn't really the truth. And so what he told me on the session is he said, if I would have not gone through the pain of feeling totally, completely, utterly rejected by this woman, then I would have not gotten to the point in my mind where I was searching for new answers. And I would not have figured out that fundamentally I have to validate my own sense of self-worth at a much more profound level than I have been in my life up until this point. See, because before this whole breakup thing had happened, he was dealing with self-esteem issues at a pretty substantial level for a long period of time. The big breakup became this sort of crisis point where the pain became so unbearable. His insecurities and his self-esteem issues became so painful that he was forced to reach this point in his mind where he searched for a new answer. And as he searched for a new answer, he got one, and he reformed his beliefs. As he reformed his beliefs, he created a healing. And as he's created a healing, he's now able to move on and grow. So one of my mentors years ago told me that if you think about it, being a human being and growing up is like moving from one problem to the next problem to the next problem. There are very predictable problems that human beings have at certain stages of their life, such as dealing with the insecurities at school and dealing with your first breakup and going through the anxiety of maybe committing yourself to somebody getting married, or the first child period that a new couple has. There are areas of every person's life where you are exposed to a new situation that's going to cause you temporary emotional pain, but you grow and transform through the pain. If you would not have had the painful experience, there would be no necessity to grow. And even though it's an overused metaphor, it'd be the same as, like, think of like a physical muscle. If you put no strain on a physical muscle whatsoever, what happens? The muscle atrophies. It completely weakens itself to the point that it's not usable at all. Only by putting tension and pressure and resistance on the muscle does the muscle grow so that it can then be more effective out in the world. So the more strain you put on the muscles, the more strength you exhibit, the more ability you have to go out into the world and do things and prevent injury and all that sort of thing. And so emotionally, what I'm realizing is that this is the goal. The goal is not to live a pain-free life. The goal is to make sure that anytime we experience emotional pain, we use it to our advantage in order to grow. And in that way, any single thing that happens in our life, including the painful things, is actually there to serve us. It actually is there to help us, because we just have to uncover what the lesson is, right? And so one of the things that I put in the new version of Mental and Emotional Mastery, I did a whole big thing on healing trauma, and that was something that was missing from the previous version. And I really wanted to tackle the idea of healing and how to heal from trauma head on. And one of the things I taught is that to heal from trauma, there are really two big things that have to happen. The first is you have to change the belief that you had been holding on to previously. Because what happens very often is something painful happens in our life and we come up with a belief, and typically the belief is one where we blame ourselves, usually. So if someone was molested or abused or raped, they might have adopted a belief system that they did something wrong. And if they hold on to that belief of I did something wrong, the belief is what's really going to be causing them a lot of ongoing pain over the years, not necessarily the fact that the event took place. Yes, the fact that the event took place is a painful, horrible thing, but the majority of the emotional pain 10 years later is because they're continuously beating themselves up about it, or they have a limiting belief about the situation. So whenever I've helped people recover from trauma, particularly severe physical and sexual abuse, we've always had to change the meaning. We always have to change the belief. We have to get rid of any limiting, destructive belief that's causing the person to inflict unnecessary suffering on themselves. And once we transform the belief, then the second master step of healing trauma can take place, which is making sure that the person is now able to extend love to themselves where they previously were withholding that love. So when we believe that we've done something wrong and that we are not deserving of love or happiness, we create that belief and then we withhold the love from ourselves, right? And when we withhold love from ourselves, we then feel more in reaction to other people in our life. We think that other people not giving us what we need is the reason we don't feel loved, when it's primarily that we're not being loving to ourselves. And so anyway, for this gentleman, what he realized is that the pain of this breakup with this woman that he really was attracted to was the necessary pain he had to go through in order to learn the lesson that he had to be more unconditionally loving to himself, and that he really had to tackle his innate insecurities and self-esteem issues. And so, in that way, the pain became the doorway to a greater healing, but only because he searched for what the lesson was that he needed to extract from the situation. So, I'm going to close with one final little way of thinking about this. And I picked this up from a documentary I watched recently about the spiritual teacher. His name was Ram Dass. Very interesting guy. I'm just getting to know his work and things, but he had a really interesting thing he said in the documentary. He said, what if we looked at life as being a school? And any time that we are experiencing any sort of emotional disruption, any type of pain, we could take that as simply being the curriculum that we need to learn as a part of being students in the school of life. And so he said that this has brought to him a whole lot of peace of mind and a whole lot of joy throughout his life, where when he ever experiences some type of a painful situation, he simply acknowledges that he's going through the curriculum, that there is some lesson right in front of him that he needs to learn. And that it could be that there's a skill he needs to learn in order to grow to the next level. It might mean that he needs to be more unconditionally loving. It might mean that he needs to change what he is really valuing in his life, right? And the transformation has to take place, but we are the ones who have to initiate that transformation. So anyway, my little takeaway I'm hoping that you'll get out of this, and I'd like you to reflect on, is I'd like you to think and consider, what is the repetitive emotional pain that you are experiencing on a regular basis right now? And what do you think is the lesson that you need to extract from that pain in order to move to the next chapter of your mental health journey? Because I think if you really contemplate that and really push yourself to come up with answers to those questions, I think there's a very, very good chance you're going to find a nugget that you can actually use to move yourself forward. So anyway, I hope that this is helpful to you. Again, if you don't know who I am and you're new to our community, welcome. We'd love to have you. My name is Ty Hicks, founder of mentalhealthcoaching.com and the SSS conditioning method. We help people typically reduce their anxiety or depression by about 75% in 90 days on average. And we do these lessons because we don't want you to suffer when anybody can have really great mental health, so long as they commit themselves to learning the skills and systems to make it so. So as always, we invite your comments and feedback, and we'd love to see what else you've got in store. And stay tuned for our next lesson coming up next week. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. See you soon. Bye.